Well, good evening, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this virtual cabinet meeting. I'm Paul Skinner. I'm the leader of the council. Before the meeting starts, could I ask that a roll call be taken of the members and officers attending? Pippa, please.
Thank you. I'll call the other cabinet members in alphabetical order. If you could please indicate you are present. Councillor Tracy Abbott.
Present.
Councillor Richard Austin.
Present.
Councillor Martin Griggs.
Present.
Councillor Jonathan Noble.
Present.
Councillor Yvonne Stevens.
Present.
Councillor Nigel Walton.
Present.
Thank you. And the officers in attendance tonight are Rob Barlow, Chief Executive.
Hello there.
Michelle Sachs, Deputy Chief Executive for Place and Monitoring Officer.
Thank you. Present.
Adrian Sibley, Section 151 Officer.
Present.
Victoria Burgess, Assistant Director for Operations.
Present.
Christian Allen, Assistant Director for Regulation. I don't think he's here. Michelle Howard, Assistant Director for Housing and Wellbeing.
Present.
Phil Perry, Assistant Director for Support Services and Partnerships.
Present.
James Gilbert, Assistant Director for Organisation and Cooperative Services.
Present, Pippa. Thank you.
Matt Fisher, Operations Manager.
Present.
And from Democratic Services, Jeanette Collier and myself, Pippa Rose. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Pippa. Move to part one, the preliminaries. Have I the Cabinet's permission to sign the minutes of the meeting of the Cabinet held on the 2nd of December 2020?
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you. If you have any comments, none. So right, I assume, so I will sign those. Thank you very much. Moving on, are there any apologies?
There are none, Chair.
Thank you. Have any of the members got any interest to declare on the agenda? D, are there any questions from members of the public?
There are none, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Let's move on to part two. Right, recommendations from overview and scrutiny. Are there any recommendations from overview and scrutiny committee for this meeting?
Sorry, Chairman. There are recommendations and they are contained within the reports on the agenda tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Are there any recommendations from BTAC?
There are none for this meeting, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Right, then we move on to item 3. This is the first item proper on the agenda tonight, which is a draft budget setting report and medium-term financial strategy for 21-22 to 25 and 26 for consultation. The report starts on page 17 of the agenda pack and Councillor Noble will present it. Thank you, Councillor Noble.
Thank you, Councillor Skinner. This draft budget is a recovery budget and it represents a council looking forward with confidence to the future. I think for us it's important just to set the background picture to this budget. We've had 3 lockdowns which have had a massively detrimental financial effect or financial effects on both the council and local businesses. Fortunately, we've been amply and generously compensated by central government for that fact. I'll just mention 1 or 2 things. For example, we've had 5,311,000 in Section 31 monies from central government. We've had 1,185,000 from the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, COVID receipts in respect of lost fees and charges. There've been business grants of over 14 million, helping 1,245 local businesses. We've had £750 from the town's fund accelerator monies for the capital programme. And more recently, of course, we've had the Community Champions or Community Cohesion Grant of approximately 495,000, We know that 100,000 of that is going to a language lab at Haven High School. We know that individual cabinet members are going to be given £1,000 each to distribute in any way that can enhance that effort at enhance community cohesion. I'm just going to summarise some of the key points now in this budget. Those central government monies have been so generous that we now have predicted surplus for 2021-22 of £98,000. But we will need to make approximately £700,000 savings in future years to maintain a balanced budget without drawing on our reserves. So in summary, we're in quite a healthy financial position in view of the current challenges we've experienced through local government at this time. And therefore it behoves me to recommend or suggest that we have an increase in the council tax of £4.95, which equates to 2.57%. And we're looking at 2% increase in future years thereafter. That's of course in line with our limits of £5 or £2, beyond which we need a referendum. So we're hoping that we can make future savings in the future, partly by further strategic alliance savings. Possibly if we go down if we adopt PSPS as a service provider, there'll be in the long-term financial savings from that. We're looking to make transformation savings, and of course there'll be other service reviews undertaken during the year. We expect to have about £13 million in reserves at the end of 21-22, 6 million of those being in for capital. Other good news, Section 31 grants scheduled to increase in 2021-22 by 1,159,000, I beg your pardon. And in addition to the revenue support grant for that year, should give us a combined total of £2,635,000. We know now that the new homes bonus is going to be available to us for a further 2 years. In the first of those 2 years, we'll receive 690,000, we anticipate, and in the following year, 289,000. Other points to mention is, as in 2020 to 21, in 2021 to 22, we'll be part of a business rates pool across Lincolnshire, enabling us to retain additional resources. The government has announced plans to freeze the business rate multiplier for 2021 to 22 as part of its support package for businesses. We also know that the fairer funding review has been delayed. So looking to the future, obviously, at the moment, we're in a financially rosy position. It may not last. So much will depend on the generosity of central government moving forward. Future savings and efficiencies will inevitably be needed. So in summary, prudence will be good and profligacy is bad. So that just leaves me really to come to conclusions. So I'm going to recommend to this cabinet this draft budget and our medium-term financial strategy, and more particularly, I'm going to recommend that we, the cabinet, recommend for public consultation this draft budget for 2021 to 22 and the medium-term financial strategy projections. And also the second recommendation, of course, is a council tax increase of £4.95, which equates to 2.57% increase. So I don't know if I'd need to move that formally. I'd wait to be instructed if that's the case. I am formally moving it, and we'll look for a seconder.
Well, thank you very much for that, Jonathan. Very thorough report. Before I ask for a seconder, does anybody have any questions? Yes, Yvonne.
I've got two, if I might. The first one, Leader, Jonathan mentioned that cabinet members will be receiving £1,000 to use as a grant to help people. I'd like more information of who or what we could help. Can that be sent out to all members, please, who are going to receive this grant?
I think, Jonathan,
of course.
It's a councillor, all councillors.
All councillors, right, thank you.
Yes.
The information, when I would like that as soon as possible, so I know what I'm dealing with. That's my first question. Second question really goes on council tax. I understand it's been the council's way of increase on a regular basis. And I understand why we're increasing, but I feel we can't keep, I suppose we can keep increasing, but it bothers me tremendously if we have to continually raise council taxes, because I thought we were supposed to be looking at being more commercial. So my question really is, what provision, to Councillor Noble, what provision is being made for the council to be more commercial and hopefully raising council tax less? Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. I'll deal with those 2 points. Firstly, if I neglected to mention that £1,000 grant is going to be given to all councillors, that was my mistake. And obviously, if you need further advice and guidance, Councillor Stevens, as to how that money should be distributed, I'm sure that will be forthcoming from other cabinet members and also from officers. But the key point is that however it's directed, it must be to enhance that idea of community cohesion and community integration, because we know that at present that is a problem within the borough. Going on to your second point of council tax, I think in last year we increased it by 2%, which was less than the maximum. We have to be prudent looking forward. We know that central government monies will progressively diminish going forward, and so we have to make necessary savings. We need to be more commercial. In that respect, that's an issue I think that needs more addressed to the economic department in terms of how they're going to drive and encourage the council's business model. But we're all aiming for the same thing, which is for Boston to be prosperous, to develop. Boston has the potential to be the economic jewel in Lincolnshire's crown. We have so many things going for us. We have the port, we have the railway, we're looking to improve the road infrastructure, and we just need to be positive, but we need to be prudent. We have to set a balanced budget. And I sympathise with you, Councillor Stevens, as to council tax. If it was my way, if we could possibly do it, there wouldn't be any increases, but there have to be increases, because we have to show ourselves as a financially competent and responsible authority.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Anybody else got a question? Yes, Nigel.
Thank you. Well, thanks for the comments on the economic side. The economic team are working extremely hard every day to increase the economy of the town and the borough. And we hope at some stage to be bringing some of our plans to the front, and I'm sure we'll all be very happy at that stage. But the two questions about the budget is, first one is about the balanced budget, and you gave great comments around the generosity of the government. Could you also let us know that what impact the Alliance had on our budget setting for next year, and has that had a positive impact on the budget setting? And also, do we all know that the Drainage Board take half of our money in real terms? Do we know what their increase is yet this year, and how will that affect our budget?
On the first point, you asked about the Alliance, has it brought us savings? I think from memory that we're in a slightly more advantageous position than we thought we'd be. I think we thought that it was because it cost £750,000 in the first year, and it's come at something less. I think it's about 725,000. And obviously, looking forward, we are looking to make continued savings through the strategic alliance. But one can't give precise figures at this stage for next year in particular. As for regards to the Drainage Board rates, I am assuming, but I don't know for certain, and I'll find out and get back to you later. I imagine they're looking for about a 2.5% interest. And can I just make this point, Councillor Welton? It's a great shame that when people look at their council tax bills, they don't look at the increase in the police precept, which goes on quite astronomically, in my view, year on year, and also the fact that the Lincolnshire County Council seem to want to increase their share of the bill massively. I think it'd all help us if we could get that message to our residents, that when they get their bill, which every year is greater than it was previously, that Boston's element is a very, very small proportion of that.
Thank you, Councillor Noble, and I think you're dead right as well, that with us being the collection agent, as it were, that we seem to feel the brunt of the rises and the perception of the rises from our people in our borough, and in real terms that the amount that we increase our part of is pennies in comparison to some of the really big charges that fall on that council tax bill.
Yeah, just coming back to that, Councillor Wilson, I think it's my understanding, this was from the S151 officer earlier today, that the police precept is going to be an increase of £15 for someone who's in a Band D property. And for LCC, the increase again is going to be about £25 for some of the Band D property.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Am I able to come? Sorry, am I able to come in there and contribute?
Yes, please do.
Thank you. I just wanted to pick up on a couple of points. I think the question was made about, are we being more commercial, or how are we being more commercial? And one of the answers was given by Councillor Welton in the fact that we've looked at the Alliance. I can confirm that the figure that's built into next year's budget as a saving is £400,000. So the council is better off by £400,000 in its budget for next year by going down the Alliance route. Other things that we are looking at, as members of Cabinet will know, are things like the PSPS contracts. That will itself will generate further savings going forward as well, and hopefully bridge that £700,000 gap in the future.
Thank you for that, Adrian. Yes, Richard.
You've given us some very interesting figures as far as the police and the county council is concerned on Band D properties. It'd be quite helpful to have a figure for the Boston Borough Council amount in comparison, particularly if it was, so it's just to show that it's a very small amount as compared to the others.
Mr. Sibley will give you that figure now because he has it to hand, I think.
As Councillor Noble said, the increase from the police is out to consultation for £15. For the county council, it's around about £25, and for ourselves, it's about £5. Is that the question you was asking?
Yeah. Yes, I think sure it was. Right. Any further questions? No. Well, I'm quite happy to second that, Jonathan.
Thank you.
With it being second, we'll move on to the vote. Jeanette, could you get the members to state whether they're for or against? Thank you.
Certainly, Chairman. If members could say whether they're for, against, or wish to abstain. Councillor Abbott.
For.
Councillor Austin.
For.
Councillor Griggs.
For.
Councillor Noble.
For.
Yourself, Chairman.
For.
Councillor Stevens.
For.
Councillor Welton.
For.
That's unanimous, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeanette. We'll move on then to item 4, twin stream recycling collection. And this is on page 111 of the pack, and Councillor Stevens will introduce this. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you, Leader. Well, the report you have in front of you asks Cabinet to approve recommendations to extend the current trial area for the separate curbside collection of paper and card to the remaining properties within the borough. There are just over 3,000 properties currently taking part in the trial to collect paper and card from the curbside separately from their mixed recycling, which is presented in the blue recycling bin. The council stepped forward in 2019 to trial this new twin stream recycling collection service, which has demonstrated that the collection can achieve improvements in both the quality of the recycling collected and an increase in materials captured for recycling without the additional costs of introducing a new collection round. Positive feedback on the service has been received from residents in the trial areas. The council would be the first in Lincolnshire to extend the service to all properties. So I'm going to say here, Brilliant Boston, which is the culmination of collaborative working with our partner in the Lincolnshire Waste Partnership to meet the objective of the Lincolnshire Waste Management Strategy. This improves twin stream recycling collection service will also meet the requirements of the forthcoming national legislation contained in the Environment Bill 2020 and in the Council's commitment to reduce its carbon footprint. It also supports the Council's third priority in our corporate strategy agreed in November 2020, the environmental awareness and accountability. Through this priority area, the Council resolves to work with partners to encourage the community to produce less waste and recycle more. And if it's appropriate, Leader, I will move this and I'll look for a seconder. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that. Before I ask for a seconder, does anybody have any questions? Thank you, Nigel.
It's not a question as such. It's more of a bit of a background, I think, and I want to thank Councillor Stevens for what she's done over the last several months in dealing with this report, because what is not seen is the work that goes on behind the scenes for the portfolio holder and their officers behind the scenes to make things come to this stage. And through the work that has been done behind the scenes, from where this started to where it is now, there has been some changes, because as it's gone through, not everything has been as good as what we wanted as a borough, and not everything has been as good as what our officers expect that to be. So they have worked very hard behind the scenes and have made changes, and what we've got in front of us now, I think, is absolutely fantastic. And I'm really pleased that once again Boston Borough Council is leading the way in Lincolnshire. So, you know, we see it in lots of things that this council is doing. We lead and others follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of points to pick up. At 1.13, we mentioned about the customer satisfaction survey, and you know, it was quite useful for me, as I'm sure it was for other members, to see that actually the vast majority of those who undertook the trial said that they'd like it to continue, because I think that really informs whether or not it worked or it didn't. I know we look at our performance data to make a decision, but generally residents' views are more important to me, generally, rightly or wrongly. And yeah, we're all elected to represent our residents. But it did highlight the fact that maybe we need to put more information out as to what goes into the blue bin. Because quite a lot of people still didn't understand. And obviously, when the trial started, they would have received more information about what goes in what bins. I think if having that extra information, we still only have 57% of people confident with what goes in the bin, then maybe the vast majority of us accidentally contaminate, putting wrong plastics into bins, etc. So it might be worth just, you know, picking that point up. One thing that...
Can I just come back on that one, Thor?
Yeah, sorry, Vonnie.
As we move forward with this, Councillor Griggs, we are looking at education, not just educating the public, not just educating the staff, but educating ourselves as well, so that we all are singing from the same hymn sheet, so we know eventually everything will be crystal clear as to what goes in what bin, the paper and card, and then you've got your green, just general refuse. But our main objective is to reduce reduce waste in Boston and the surrounding areas.
Thank you very much, Vonnie. If you'd permit me to carry on. I'm sure most of you remember when the scheme first materialised. I can completely see the reasons behind it. We do need to improve our recycling rates. And I think the aforementioned legislation that Councillor Stevens mentioned will be crucial to tackling that. Not just in terms of what we put in rubbish, but what manufacturers give us as packaging that affects the levels of rubbish that we produce. Could you give assurances to anyone watching, Councillor Stevens, that, like I've argued with, and I know you've argued as well about this, properties that don't have room for additional waste storage and whatnot, and potentially areas such as large flat complexes that may have trouble with waste in its present state, that will obviously have greater problems going forward. And finally, I think personally, I think it's a great document. I think it's a great idea. I do disagree with some elements of it. I disagree with the lack of side waste for green bins, but again, I can completely understand the council's perspective on that. Keep the message nice and simple, and it avoids confusion. I also like the incentive that we discussed at briefing. I say incentive, that's the wrong choice of words, about an amnesty on side waste around Christmas time, because I think that'll be reassuring to residents as well, that they know, at Christmas time we all have loads of boxes and paper and food and all sorts of things that need disposing of, and the council will endeavour to collect them, because obviously, as we know, fly tipping's a major blight across the UK, and especially, I'm sure we've all seen in Boston. So it's nice again, just to get that point out there, that the times of year that normally extra waste is collected and people rely on a side waste collection, that will still continue going forward. Thank you very much.
If I might come back, Leader, just to answer Councillor Griggs. He mentioned flats and also properties with no backyards or very, very small areas. And he wants my assurance. Well, the assurance I can give him is that we're working on this. And if I'm feeling comfortable, I promise you, you will feel comfortable. Nothing is cast in stone yet. It's a movable feast, but I've got every confidence in Victoria and her officers that the outcome is going to be what our residents are going to be pleased to accept. But on this, before I finish, I would just like to say thank you to Victoria and the team for the work, the hard work, dealing with me, because I've not been easy, because things haven't sat comfortably with me, but now they do. So that's the assurance I can give you, Martin. If I can feel comfortable with it, and the officers are working towards the end result, you will feel comfortable when it's all clarified, if you're happy with that.
Thank you, Yvonne. Jonathan.
Thank you, Lead. Yes, I want to just comment firstly on the trial. And what was particularly heartening about the trial was not only the high participation rate, 96% of eligible households, but also the extremely low rejection rate of only 4%. I thought that was a pretty staggering achievement. And Councillor Stevens talked about education and information. So if we've had that degree of success with the trial, there's no reason to think why it won't be equally successful going forward when it's introduced to all dwellings in the community. And I know that in the past, I think with your blue bins or your recycling bins, that there's been more contamination with like, and also I think the survey showed that even 57% of people weren't quite sure what goes in. But I think just going forward, if we continue with that education process, whether it's by stickers or by flyers, obviously in multiple languages, we will get the message across, because as Councillor Wells I think alluded to, it's a great achievement that we're doing this, and we've got it out before other councils in the county. So well done to us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tracy first and then Richard.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to see that there's going to be a little bit more education in the second rollout. Obviously, being part of the first rollout myself, you did feel you was left a little bit to your own devices. And that's where the confusion happened with a lot of people with the blue bin, not the purple bin. So it's very nice that they have understood they've taken notice, and they're going to be that little bit more education. So I think it's going to work very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
very much, Tracy. Richard.
What is the approximate date when we might see the this proposal, if it's approved this evening, in place?
About mid-April, Richard. This is what we're working on at the moment. But obviously everything's a bit flexible because we're dealing with COVID. We've got a lot of work on our plates, especially with the refuse, not being able to collect the refuse at the moment. So provisionally mid-April, if that's close enough for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Yvonne. I think it's an excellent piece of work. There's quite a lot of work to do with manufacturers and people that ship products because of the amount of cardboard and other packaging that we all receive, particularly over the last 12 months. I would imagine that figures have gone up absolutely drastically with card and stuff. Having said that, anything we can do to recycle anything that's clean and reuse it again has got to be worthwhile. So that is absolutely fantastic. So you've moved it in line with the 4 recommendations, Yvonne, which are contained within the report. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Tracy. So Yvonne has moved the 4 recommendations of the report. Tracy has seconded it. And could we please record the members?
Yes, Chairman. If members could indicate if they are for, against, or wish to abstain. Councillor Abbott.
For.
Councillor Austin.
For.
Councillor Griggs.
For.
Councillor Noble.
For.
Yourself, Chairman.
For.
Councillor Stevens.
For.
Councillor Welton.
For.
That's unanimous, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll now move on to item 5, which is empowering healthy communities. The Community Champions Fund, which starts again on 157 of the agenda pack. And I'll ask Councillor Griggs to present this great report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Firstly, I'd like to apologise again for not being on camera. Unfortunately, my internet signal is not good enough to stream my voice and receive a video, so I can only apologise for that. But this is some fantastic news for the borough, and it's very rare we actually get the chance to talk about some fantastic things going on. So we were approached by MHCLG to apply for funding up to £500,000. And we were one of 50 councils in the country. Unfortunately, that gave us a very short turnaround time of about 3 days. So I'd like to personally thank Michelle and her team for the extremely hard work, and not just those, but the partners that we work with as well. Because I think, again, this scheme goes to prove that without partnership working and having an intimate knowledge of what everyone who's trying to achieve similar goals is up to, and having those good communication barriers, it just wouldn't have happened. So we bid for £494,800, and we were extremely optimistic in our application, thinking that if we bid for the maximum and we get some, it's better than nothing. But be really adventurous and see what the potential appetite from MHCLG was. Obviously, that came back that we got all of the funding approved. So, absolutely super fantastic. And the programme seeks to enable local areas to accelerate, enhance and target community engagement opportunities to build trust and confidence in public health messaging, improved engagement and take-up of initiatives, and develop and build on the community work that's ongoing in the borough. So I'm not going to say a huge amount more on it, although I will just pick up about the proposed community grant scheme. As members will be aware, there's a briefing scheduled for, I believe it's early mid-February time, to go through with members what that £1,000 per member can be used for. Because as Councillor Noble alluded to, it is outcome led. So it's focusing on community cohesion and supporting health and well-being and healthy communities. At the moment, there is more information on that. Obviously, I'll circulate it, not just the cabinet, but member wide, so that we can all let people in our communities know that grants are available to be applied for. Following on from that, I'd like to propose the recommendations as discussed on the document, and I'm happy to go through any questions.
Thank you. Has anybody got any questions? Nigel, please.
Thank you. Yeah, again, another positive story, isn't it? You know, our teams behind the scenes just seem to have a knack at the moment of finding opportunities for our borough, finding ways of bringing new and exciting things to us. And I think once again, it's, you know, it just shows what's happening behind the scenes, because people see the council as the council and don't really understand the things that happen behind the scenes. And I think when we look back on this, that we will see just what impact this is going to have on our communities going forward. And it's going to take a while, but things like this take a bit of work at the beginning, a huge amount of work at the beginning, but the results at the end are fantastic. And I saw a few comments on Facebook the other day from some individuals that were saying, oh, the council are going to do this, and oh, what about that? Why can't they spend it on this, and why can't they spend it on that? But the reality is that when you see a fund for a specific project, you do a lot of work in order to put the paperwork and the time in to just put the bid together. The fact that we get that money means that we don't have extra money in the general fund. It means that that money is specific to a specific project. And I just want to say thank you, because it just seems to be that everything that we bid for at the minute, we get. And I think that is the quality of the staff, the quality of the work. And I think in the back of my mind, again, I'm going to mention it, I think the resources and the resilience that the Alliance has given us to have our officers' ability to work differently and have a different perspective on what's happening. I think the work we did last year with the Alliance is now starting to bear fruit. And this is just the beginning, I think, of some really, really wonderful, positive things for our borough.
Thank you for that, Nigel. Any further questions, anybody? Well, I'll also add my thanks for this very quick project, and I won't say rushed, because it wasn't. It's got items that are one-off projects, but it's also got some keystones that will build for the future and provide quite a lot of communication in our community, and probably the opportunity for even some of the locals to learn some of the other languages as well, you know, ongoing. So I think it's absolutely fantastic. Martin.
Yeah, just to come back on, Paul, what you just said. Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't rushed. The paperwork to get in was a rush, but the project themselves, you know, it is, as Nigel said, yeah, we're doing quite well with funding at the minute, and opportunities are coming up. And I must agree that actually, I think the extra capacity that the Alliance has brought about and the expertise has allowed us to put better bids in, or have more time to, you know, get the work done and liaise with partners. I mean, for instance, the money for Haven High Academy, they were on about the language lab 2 years ago, but there was no funding opportunities. So, you know, by liaising with other organisations and, you know, being really embedded in communities and in everything that's going on in the community, it enables the council to, as funding comes up, match it to projects that we know are sat on a shelf waiting to move forward. And obviously that has happened in this case, and it's allowed something really fantastic for the borough.
Thank you for that. I mean, the Town Deal project has enabled quite a lot of different people from different backgrounds to come together, and the combined experience and skills of our Alliance team are actually providing the whole Alliance area with additional skills, and it is really nice to watch. And so, do I have a seconder? Richard, thank you very much. So we have a proposer, we have a seconder. Let's move to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, if members could indicate for, against or abstention. Councillor Abbott.
For.
Councillor Austin.
For.
Councillor Griggs.
Unreservedly for.
Thank you. Councillor Noble.
For.
Yourself, Chairman.
Very much for. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stevens.
For.
Councillor Welton.
For.
That's unanimous then, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Absolutely great report. It's just a pleasure to read something like that. Thank you very much. So we're now at item 6, which is actually the exclusion of the public and the press. So the next item is to consider resolving that under section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, as amended by Local Government Access to Information Variation Order 2006, the public and the press be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 4 and of part 1 of Schedule 12A of the order. Do I have a proposer?
I propose that, Leader.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Jonathan.
I'll second that. Thank you.
So it's been moved and it's second. Let's move on to the vote.
Chairman, if members could indicate for or against. Councillor Abbott.
For.
Councillor Austin. Councillor Griggs.
For.
Councillor Noble.
For.
Yourself, Chairman.
For.
Councillor Stevens.
For.
Councillor Welton.
For.
That's unanimous then, Chairman. So I will now end the stream on YouTube.